Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for being here and participating of this panel. I want to thank Malu, Fabio, and Ramiro for being here, for the time that you have dedicated to this presentation. We have two key words. One is prohibition and the other one is enablement. And I hope after this talk, we will be more akin to the second term than this first one. At Cid, since the beginning of our institution, we have been working on that to enable in every part of the productive system, to improve them and to have more and more tools to work in the field, and that's what we do from the certification program. We have Maru here, who will be first, and will talk about what she's been working on for many years at Cid, and then, of course, Fabio will complement with information, and Ramiro will give us an overview of this subject. So, Maru, you have the floor. Thank you, everyone. Let's hope our experience is contagious. I want to thank Rocío and Cid. We began by thinking about the chance to get to know what happened in the peri-urban areas, and I am the community president of that community, but I am an agronomist, and I sold products for a very long time. So going into public administration has been very nice for me because I can work on this. Cañada Roquín is in the southeast of Santa Fe. It is the first green municipality in the province of Santa Fe. And for the past 7 years, we have kept up this program. And I think the most important thing was that it has survived the different governments, because we did it as a community. Why did we start working on this? We wanted to see this area, the peri-urban area, this gray area, and to ask ourselves what happened in the urban areas. There was lack of clear rules, people did not know the regulations, there were bureaucratic processes, accusations, and uncontrolled applications. This happens in many places. And we wondered if there were laws that could regulate this, and there were. It is Law 11273, and there are rules and decrees, and there was a local ordinance from 2006 that said that it was related to Law 11273. But these laws were not being applied, and there was lack of a defined control to study and see what the peri-urban area really was. The vision back then of our project was to get to know the peri-urban area deeply, to be able to organize it, manage it, and protect it, to be able to have a territorial management based on real information with the stakeholders and get them to participate in this organization so that rules were clear and that would allow us to produce in a sustainable long-term way. And we wanted to bring safety and security to the population and to build a community that is committed to the environment and to its context. So we identified all of the stakeholders to do this. I worked in environment, and I was very, very angry as an agronomer for regulations that were taken without our say-so. And so we determined who were the stakeholders, the producers, the agronomers and the applicators, the appliers. We called schools, clubs, health areas, the companies, the stock places, and of course the local government and the community. Once we identified all of these stakeholders, and I'm sure you're surprised because it says schools and clubs, we identified all of the stakeholders and we focused basically on the agronomers and the people who applied products that would help us. And the ordinance was not to exclude or prohibit, but to control and support. We needed to have the political will and public policies that would hold through time. We needed technical know-how that would be through the agronomers and the collective commitment. And after many meetings, there was a process that was fantastic of getting to know this place. This is the locality of Cañada Rosquín. As you can see, the red is the 0 point. We are applying the 0-meter ordinance. What you see in green is the land control area, which is about 3,400 hectares, and in blue is the aerial control area. In the north, as you can see, there was the drinking water reservoir. So we bordered a control area and of a permit to application with according to the law. And if you look at this, and the law might say from 0 to 500 meters, and studying this, these 500 meters would be inside the lots, and after those 500 meters, what happened? So then, so that you could have an idea, we're working between 1,500 and 1,200 meters control area, where we took roads that are easily identifiable by stakeholders and easily identifiable by the locality. And this means that this is controlled for agricultural engineers that work in this green municipality. We were also asking for, of course, good practices in agricultural terms. We wanted environmental management. We wanted to include an external certificator and to generate trust and transparency. Then after the ordinance, we have the green municipality, we have the certification via Cid, via IREM, and to be able to think about the certification, we have, of course, the community management rules. We had a web app. We're talking about 2017 here. We needed to have a control tool. The peri-urban area is controlled through this web app, where there is permanent communication with the engineers that work in that area, with the people who apply products, and with the producers. And also, when we speak about people who apply, the people who are driving these machines to apply product, the validation of tools is 24/7. It is very, very quick, the validation of prescriptions. And we needed, of course, control with digital traceability. And that's why today we have 3 agricultural engineers that work for us in this program. 2 are controllers in real time in the application of products. And they take all of the data that are then uploaded to this web app that allows us to have true information with regards to what's happening in the peri-urban area. We have 7 years of data so far. Green Municipality, Cid, and IREM were crucial to be able to bring security and safety to our population, long-term sustainability, and the fact that this model may be replicated and that the management is validated by third parties, and so that it doesn't generate any problems with regards to who we are governing for, the producers or the community. The territorial impact of this ordinance and this green municipality is 3,600 hectares that have been organized and who have become safe, and the protected rural area. We only have one rural school that are within the same ordinance with the same meters for application. It allowed harmony between the production and the community, and it involved the community, especially when it had to do with what happened in the urban areas. As a final reflection, I want to tell you that it was necessary to know what was going on in order to act, to be able to protect, to transform the lack of knowledge of that area into knowledge. The confusion and noise was turned into order. The uncertainty that it generated was turned into safety for the community. It was very important to make actions transparent. The ordinance was communicated effectively. Everybody knew how we should behave in both places. And what I think is vital is to have IRM regulations and to have the certification for a green municipality, is that this registration of all of this data over the 7 years allowed us to have information, and that information allows us to have continuous improvement. Certification gives us clues to improve every year, and every year we develop and we give more certainty and security so that the rural and the town can be an ecosystem that can flow in a natural way, because we don't belong to either the rural or the town, but those who work in the peri-urban area also live in the town many times. The presentation was quick, but with this I would like to say that it is possible that you have to get people together, the stakeholders, and you must get to know each locality to be able to act, and so that the actions can actually endure throughout the different governments. So it becomes public policy for that specific place, and this is only feasible when all of the stakeholders make a commitment to live in a healthy way and a harmonious way. That is our experience. We're proud as a community to have these certification for a green municipality and for the IRM standards.
Para nosotros y desde APRECID,
For us and at APRECID, of course, our premise is to support all growers, and in this case, municipalities, and always having spokespeople. It's essential for us, so we appreciate that. And now I would like to go to Fabio. Fabio represents here in this panel the Association of Phytosanitary Suppliers, and perhaps when she mentioned that healthy coexistence between stakeholders and how each of them from their position can be responsible for the change, if you want. So perhaps, Fabio, I would like to ask you from your role how you see, how you work for these initiatives.
Okay, good morning. Thank you, APRECID, for the invitation and for being part of this panel about such a sensitive topic. So important in the application of pesticides in complex and sensitive areas, and the impact that the restrictions in different parts of the country and municipalities generate for farmers and for the economy
as well, and how many small growers around localities are outside the productive system because of regulations and restrictions. Before answering the question, Rocío, I wanted to let you know how I got here, who I am, where I come from, in order for you to have an idea about the reason for some things. Today, I'm the president of an association of pesticide applicators that was created after a court order in 2020, where the application of phytosanitary products was prohibited in the area of Tandil until the municipal ordinance was reformulated. That was enforced at the time, but that was challenged it led to some lawsuits, and it led financially to this court order. After long discussions, similar to what Maria was describing in Cañada Rosquín, they started to, all the parts became integrated. All the parts of the chain of agriculture got together, and we all started from our own positions with a huge commitment and responsibility to contribute their approach and their commitment to do something better. And finally, a legislation was passed that made it possible to improve and unlock that situation in court. So we created the Association of applicators. We were the ugly ducklings, we received all the criticism, and we were responsible because of our lack of commitment and responsibility when we were on the machines. But we could demystify this by informing, by training, by interacting with all the institutions in the community. We reached education, where we were questioned. In the agrarian education, we were highly resisted there. Academia, like the National University of the Center, where at the time it was called a nest of environmentalists, but we could rebuild those relationships by informing very humbly and transparently, and also willing to improve every day, to do things better, to do things with judgment, with knowledge and professionalism. Those operators on the machines to apply pesticides today, as part of the agricultural spectrum, I'm sure they are very well trained throughout the year, and they are very open to receiving that training. They participate in our training sessions. And at the association, we started working in that direction very humbly. We started this 4 years ago, and we are sustaining it today, and we add components every year. We have an exhibition called Tecnología that combines products and technology for a more sustainable production. We did the first one in a field that was prepared for that exhibition. And then, for improving the connection with the community, with the education sector, we keep doing it. We did the fourth one in a farm school, and with a high participation of educational institutions from the region as a whole and from the province of Buenos Aires. And then we can improve this in terms of professionalization, attracting new actors. So for us, it is very important to do this small regional exhibition, but has a high impact in terms of relationships. And in the latest issue, with an expert in pesticide application, but also with a great individual, because he's always willing to provide knowledge and to do things better. So with his coordination, Engineer Ramiro Cid, and that's who I'm talking about, we managed to do the first issue of the this competition, applying awareness. The idea is to go beyond a competition and to evaluate the decision-making skills of the operator that is on top of a spraying machine. So we're working actively on the second edition that will be in April 26th. So basically, after this introduction, I hope I haven't spoken too much. Technology many years ago, but if you consider a historical cycle, it's not that long. But 15 years ago, thinking that we would have all the technological tools we have today on a machine in order to apply the products, and how that improved the quality of the applications and the control of the weeds and the control of the pests and the safety of those applications, I think that 15 years ago, and seen as today, this would be science fiction. Speaking of automatic pilot, application, peak-to-peak telemetry that allows us to see on our phone when a machine is in a peri-urban area, so it issues an alert and monitor that machine in real time, what it's spraying, compare that to the recipe. I mean, that has advanced so quickly. What perhaps is still missing from our perspective as operators of those machines is perhaps to strengthen those links. So each link plays their part, both in terms of action and responsibility. I think we have to actively strengthen the connection among all those links. I think we should all feel responsible for that actively. And we have to work actively also on improving the work of all these players, the knowledge of growers, the knowledge of the professionals involved, of course, the training of those that sit on the machine, that permanently have to make decisions when they are using that technology. What do I mean? That technology is an essential tool. We have new things like this new application. We see drones all over the place, screens all over the place, but they are not going to solve the problem on their own, and they are not going to give us the safety that peri-urban communities need. We need to work in coordination and responsibly among all those stakeholders. And the grower assumes their responsibilities as well, and we as operators of the machines should feel supported by the professional involved. And of course, we should be able to put operators on the machines that have the knowledge and the responsibility for applying phytosanitary products. There we would be then combining all the things we need to give the safety that the community requires and to bridge those gaps that mean nothing, because an application that is poorly done with 50, 150 or 1,500 meters can have the same problems. So we need to be aware that this is not a problem of distances, it's a problem of action, of knowledge and responsibility. So that's my humble opinion about the situation, or how an applicator, an operator, and an application expert of phytosanitary products. Thank you, Fabio, for that. Ramiro, I think that several things have been mentioned that you will be able to combine very well. Knowledge, technology. I think with your trajectory at the INTA and working with this, with science, technology, and transforming this into tools for growers, what can we do with all this that we have available? How do we carry this to the grower, to the municipality? So first.
Bueno, después agradecer.
So I'd like to thank Ramiro Cid for the opportunity of being here. This is a very hot issue, the issue of peri-urban applications, and it's always good to disseminate the possible solutions. How many hours do I have? Well, no, I will try and be brief. First, something about whether it's possible to do the applications next to the towns without having any problem, without technical problems, without spillovers, without contamination. And the answer is definitely yes. And here I want to congratulate this the mayor of Comuna Roquín, because she has acted actively upon it. Not many towns have made the decision to face these activities, to control, to improve, and to have a frequent contact with everybody in the town so they understand. This requires a lot of dialogue. So technically, yes, it can be done perfectly, with two conditions. One would say good application practices. If you ask me, well, beautiful definitions about good practices, I would limit that to two things: knowledge of those that are working on the machine, the operators, very skilled operators, and probably the issue of application of pesticides is one of the rural activities that requires the largest knowledge. And the second condition that we would need here is social responsibility. I mean, the urgent needs for the applicator to be aware.
Sí, la imperiosa necesidad.
The need for the person who is applying the product to be aware that if they do things badly, they can generate damage in the community, to the community. Knowledge and social responsibility are the two main factors that we need to have in this type of job. There is an old joke about this. Let's take it to the applicators arena. What's worse, ignorance or indifference? And the answer in this case would be, I don't care, and nor do I know. If you don't know, you can make a mess. But if you're not interested, if you don't have social responsibility, that is chaos. Good applications in the peri-urban areas and in any other sensitive area is crucial. We would have to also talk about the agricultural machines for pulverization that we have in our country. And although we don't have any census about it, when we meet, we calculate that we probably have about 18 to 22 machines to pulverize in the country, self-propelled. Maybe this figure doesn't tell you much, but I will use an idea. If we put the first machine in Plaza Italia, we could reach Chascomús in the south of the Buenos Aires province, so that we can know how many machines there are. Fortunately, they are disseminated throughout the country, and this facilitates matters. And how are these machines? What's the state of them? We will find machinery that are in perfect state with high technology, as you can see in some of our stands outside. And there are other machines that are a bit old. And we have other machines that are really sad and that should be replaced. But they continue to work because of commercial reasons that I will try to simplify. A new machine can cost up to $500,000 or even more. It depends on the technology that we want to incorporate to it. That implies that a contractor who lives of that and generates profitability has to do about 25,000 hectares a year in order to be able to pay for this equipment and to make enough money to live. And we see here that applications have a window for them. And this is when the environmental conditions are proper, winds, etc. The amount of windows of time to apply did not coincide with the need to apply products. So many times these applications have to be done outside that window where conditions are favorable. This is a problem that can be avoided. There are technologies that allow us to overcome these limitations or to know the general rules that we need when we are going to apply product in those particular conditions. And here, I would also mention the fact that there are coadjuvants. For applicators in general, this issue is like quantum physics to me. Year on year, there are new coadjuvants. We have first generation, and what they did was to improve the conditions of the pH, to put a tense active so that the foliage would be wet. And then you saw in herbicides that penetration was not adequate, so there was a second generation of coadjuvants or mixes to get a better efficacy. And the third point was what I just mentioned about the window of opportunity to apply. And there are new mixes that allow us to work when the conditions are right, are not so favorable, but we have to apply. By saying that this requires knowledge, and there is a latter generation of coadjuvants or mixes that they are called functional. And they don't just do everything we've mentioned before, but they also have certain conditions that, combined with certain biologic or organic products, facilitate some things. For example, Rizobacter presented Pro-Mani, which is a coadjuvant that allows the phytotoxicity, or most of the phytotoxicity, that herbicides may apply on peanuts. And this gives it a lot more yield and performance. But when you talk to applicators, the issue of coadjuvants, sometimes they just use the same product throughout their whole life, and we cannot work with that anymore because we need much more specificity when it comes to using these products. Another issue that I would like to mention is legislation in Argentina. I'm sure you've suffered it. When it comes to phytosanitary products in general, and I divide it in 3 stages. The first one is from the moment that you try to write up the product until SENASA approves the product. And at that point, I would say that we are on a par with the best countries in the world. We have a SENASA manual. I can't remember what it's called, but it is a procedures for approval and sale of these products. I'm sure Federico knows what I'm talking about. But basically, it defines all of the tests that need to be carried out under which regulations. So when a phytosanitary product is on sale in here, we can be certain that it is safe to use. if it is used within the established rules on the label. Then we have the second stage, which is from the moment that the product is out into the market, is released, and I'm going to explain this better at the end. And we have a third stage, which is the stage of the handling of the packs of phytosanitary products. This is regulated by a specific law, which has been in existence for the past 5 years. It's not perfect yet, but we are working on that year on year. Yesterday, I had a meeting with Luis Herrera, which is the entity, heads the entity that stocks these containers or packages to then process them. And he thinks it's about 50% of these bottles or cartons of recipients that are rescued. And you think, oh, there's 50% still missing, but it's only been 5 years and we have moved forward. Year on year, we're doing better. And I hope that will come a time where we will have a great traceability of empty containers, and so that they can be processed and they are not a threat to safety. And management and the use of phytosanitary products from the time that they are launched into the market. Normally, it is chaos in legislative terms because we do not have a national law that can regulate everything. From the BPA network, among the things that I do, I coordinate the Commission of Phytosanitary Products, and we set up a draft bill to contemplate all of the obligations of all of the sectors that are working on the phytosanitary arena, from the sellers to the applicators to the verifiers who you have in your municipality, also the phytosanitary advisors, the agricultural prescription, what conditions must be written down on it, and also, unfortunately, the training, mandatory training for the advisors, for the controllers, for the applicators. And in Córdoba, for example, they began many years ago to work on this, and I cannot say that everything is great in Córdoba, but there is more quality in Córdoba than in other provinces. Of course, there's still room to improve, and it's not that if you have a law, things will improve magically. You have to work on it and progress, but it is fundamental for that law to be approved. The law is being handled by Deputy Maximiliano Ferraro, MP. I know that for our Congress to get laws passed that are outside of the political turmoil, it is hard to do, but I hope that we will be able to achieve this at some point. We don't have a national law, so therefore each province has its own law with criteria that differ greatly. And within each province, each municipality has actually set out their own ordinances with criteria that are very varied. And the ordinance sometimes depends on the capacity that sectors may have to exert pressure, stakeholders of varied places. And there are towns that have 3,000 meters restrictions, which is crazy in real terms, and towns like Cañada Rosquín, for example, who have something reasonable and where harmony reigns. And the last subject, I don't think I have a lot of time, I have to leave room for questions, is the drone subject. Drones are invading us like extraterrestrials might. 2 years ago in Argentina, we had 200 drones. Nowadays, they're speaking about 15 or 1,800. Nobody knows exactly. 5,000. Okay, so 5,000 drones, I'm being told now. We don't have a clear legislation with regards to the use of drones. There is training done by ANAC, by Category 2 drones, which are the ones to apply. I'm only talking about application drones. We do not have clear legislation. We do not have phytosanitary products that have been authorized to be applied with drones. And anybody can buy a drone and come out and spray. The president of EARCA, who is the Chamber of Aero Applicators, has said to me, we're going to do it with an airplane to do the spraying, and we're going to crash into a drone because there's no legislation to rule it. We need to see how to handle this and how to solve this problem. Federico Elorza, who's here, has been working on this. On Tuesday, next week, from 6 to 8, we have a virtual meeting with regards to drones. There's a lot of information on the legal grounds for it and the use of drones and practice of using them. And on the 21st and 22nd in Tucumán at Concepción, there is a meeting with regards to drones where it'll be a full day, and there will be a lot of presenters who will speak about their experiences, not just from the usage of drones, but also about all of the legal aspects regarding drones. And I think with that, I have given an overview. We're done.
Gracias, muchas gracias, Ramiro. Sabemos que
Thank you, Ramiro. I don't know, we don't have much time here. We have so many more things to say, but unfortunately, we have to try and be brief. I have a question here, and then we will dare invite Pilu. She was the ideator of this space, so she's going to help us with the final comments. But Maru, there's a question for you. How does the municipality fund this initiative? We knew this question was coming, so I know you are prepared to answer. And another one that I think is very interesting is, how do you see the possibility of escalating this in larger municipalities? Okay, as to the funding, a lot had to do this thing of knowing the peri-urban and knowing one another and talking to growers as to their needs and what they needed for the community to do. So the municipality protects the actions because there's the transparency as to what is happening. Right now, 50% is funded by the farmers in the peri-urban area, and the other 50% is funded by the municipality. And that was a key agreement because actually maintaining this control with 3 agricultural engineers, they don't work full time, but during application times, they go out there during the night, they have their mobility, and that implies a cost. But this agreement was discussed, it was negotiated with them, and that is how it was done. So on both sides, we are working in compliance with that. Farmers, if you can talk to any farmer from the peri-urban area in Cañada Rosquín, they've owned this green municipality, the same as engineers. I mean, the defense for this comes from the people, those in the peri-urban area. Rural teachers, which is very important, the discussions with them, how this was going to be implemented, and how they feel part of this environment that we want, how we want things to happen. So the criticism turned into positive collaboration. For instance, the disappearance of one of the tree windbreaks in a rural school. So discussing it, but based on knowledge and also listening to the parties and the applicators and farmers and those that were not confident of the system, and the rural schools. Well, this was talked to all the areas in the municipality. The area of health was strongly involved, and also the area of territorial organization, where that ground zero was going to be. So everybody, we all managed to make this the best for Cañada Rosquín, all contributing from their positions and from their perspectives, that we all wanted this to happen. So farmers, well, now I see that a farmer comes out and says, no, 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 we don't want to pay more. But that was the way we found. And it works, and the web app is very active, and they know we will be their defense because we have these IRAM management standards. So that also helps them feel supported by their municipality. And the other question, what about escalating this to larger municipalities? Well, it's always possible. The thing is, and that's why it was so important for all the areas to discuss. In the larger municipalities, they should also think of the territorial organization. How is the town going to grow? Where I locate the ground zero, where the industrial area is going to be located. It's a process, and I always say that beyond the fact that it was so exciting to have the seal of the stamp of Green Municipality, it was beautiful to see the whole process of getting together, of telling everybody what it was that we wanted to do, and each one to contribute from their position. So escalating this to larger cities, of course, it is possible. But the question first is to get to know the peri-urban area. What is happening there? Who are there? Because when I told you about the health area, and I want to take a few minutes, it was because when we started to work on this, a child died because of hantavirus. And it had to do with the dump sites that were generated in strategic points of the town, in the rural area, the rats. And so we started thinking, what happens with these 10, 5, 20 meters that I don't know what meters are for, that were going to become open dump sites. So when we got together, in any case of vomit or diarrhea, it was attributed to the applicators. So we had to go to the doctors, and they told them, well, sign and tell me that this happened because the applicators were there. We have to be responsible for what we explain. But we have to be responsible for what we do. And I think the larger municipalities, for them it's important to bring all the stakeholders together, not just those that are close to this. But that is very important. For this, for this ground zero not to be permanently moving around. We've been trying to escalate this for many years, Rocío. Yes, we are working for that. We always, at Aprecid and at the program, we always say that, of course, each municipality has their own characteristics. And at Aprecid, we always try to support and to adapt to those special characteristics. So we always work together as a network, and I think that's also the value of building these things. Ramiro, I have a challenge for you, because I have a question. I'm not going to tell you who asked the question, but you will realize immediately that you will have to answer in 3 or 4 minutes, no more than that. What do you think of the application with hollow cone peaks and the combination with low volumes of application compared to applications in general and in the peri-urban in particular. Oh, you guessed who asked the question. Well, here, the discussion of fine or course drop, this has been escalating, for a long time. I don't want to say Federico asked the question, but I'm sure it was him. There are two things here. The finer the drop, the larger the coverage on the target. So many things. Well, ideally, the drop should be finer and finer for me to have a better coverage and have a better penetration. The other side is that the finer the droplets, the larger the risk of drift and of evaporation. So we have to find a point of balance between those things. The trend, the global trend, I would say today, is to try and work with medium-sized droplets. When I say medium-sized, I mean 200 microns, 230 to 300 microns per droplet, which means, I don't know if, what is the median volumetric diameter? When a droplet has, or an application has a diameter of 200, and 80 or 90% of the droplets are below that size. So 200 microns is not a full safety guarantee. The trend, in my opinion, is that ideally, particularly when you're working in an area where there's a risk, a town or a protected area or a water source. So in that case, working with 250 microns of medium diameter and if possible, some kind of anti-drift that will allow us to give some safety and, of course, considering the wind direction, the intensity of the wind, the delta T, relative humidity, temperature, etc. I don't know if I have answered your questions, sort of. Have I passed? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We invite Pilu then from the Network of Rural Women. I'm going to give you my place. No, it's okay. As I said, thank you, Pilu, for promoting this space. We wanted to have you here for some closing remarks. Thank you. Thank you to the Network of Rural Women, because the proposal comes from the network, honoring what brings us together as a network. This characteristic we have, that we are women from different places, from different parts of the country, with different roles. We deal with different things. Even we wear different hats. And this issue is replicated all over the country. But apart from that, unfortunately, it becomes worse. I'm in between Maru and Cañada Rosquín and with this amazing proposal, 5,000 people, right? And 50 kilometers away, Piemonte, 3,500 people, and they say we forbid everything. So how could that happen? 50 kilometers away. We're not speaking of 500 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers. And when you were discussing these prohibitions, that means worse conditions for all. That's very clear. So the proposal from the Network of Rural Women is to create a space and to do it once again. I don't know, I look at all of you here, I look at the four of you. You've been working, as you said, for so long. But I'd like to propose again, let's create a space that is called a working group or whatever you want to call it. I see Nieves here with so many organizations around the network of good practices, so many organizations that are represented here, FEDE. The truth is that seeing the possibility of how we can work together, all the different stakeholders that need to be involved in this approach. to enhance your reality and to expand your reality, Maru, to find other places in the country where we have these cases of these success stories, and work hard, work with a real foundation, for instance, that works with all the municipalities in the country, with Barretando, so they can also take it to the National Congress, tackling all the fronts, INTA with their territoriality, the technology as well, and the contribution for the different places in the country. SENASA, we need everything that has to do with regulations around these issues. And why not? Sylvia was just telling me, here we couldn't put everybody in the panel, but those in the peri-urban that are producing, that are also transforming the possibilities of municipalities. They improve their nutritional quality, their food supply, and they're also, it means job creation. So all these proposals are positive, and we don't know why, but it's always easier and more handy to prohibit. And that's it. Let's move on to the next item. So the proposal is there. I'm sure that Vale, as usual, you have the hardest part. I see Fede, Faja also. They're all here. Very good. And let us start, and I insist, let's not reinvent the wheel, but again, everything is there for us to move forward with a proposal and to start reverting the prohibitions. And as you propose with the technology that makes this possible, let's take this all over the country. Thank you.
Another question? He needs a mic.
Son delimitadas físicamente. La municipalidad.
The municipality delimits the area. And how do you get the value? Through what? How do you get that area? Because it has to be defined. Where is the exclusion area? What's the distance? In the light of new knowledge, if there is no borders, for example, in Rio Cuarto, there is a bloody peri-urban area, and there is an urban waste right next to the rural area, and it's not. Is it urban, or peri-urban, or rural? What are the criteria? Can you talk about that? Maru, can you answer as briefly as possible? And then we can continue talking, but because of the time of the event, we have to finish. And we keep on talking afterwards. So I was saying about the peri-urban and limited, and once that is delimited, we can do it via ordinance, like it is done in the suburban, the urban area, and then we can do it as a buffer area or a control area. In our case, it was very easy because we have a physical barrier with the provincial and the national highway, and there is a roundabout road that separated the urban from the suburban. So that's why it was easier in other localities to be able to limit it and to give some exclusion lots. So that's why we have to sit and talk with all the areas of the locality. Sorry, Pilu, but this is achieved when there is political will behind it of the person who is in charge of government, because people who are at the peri-urban are less than the people who live in the locality, and it's hard. There has to be political will. It is possible in big areas or big towns. The political will is needed to be able to do it. I did it with a community president that enabled me, and we were able to continue, although the next government wanted to turn it down. It became public policy.
Bueno, gracias.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to the speakers.